What is going on, Schwazy gang? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Opposite of the last video, in today's video, we're gonna be talking about these 7 things I absolutely love about my 2020 Hellcat. Okay, so if you guys didn't catch the last video, I talked about these 7 things that I hate about this car, and I thought it was just appropriate to talk about these 7 things that I love about the 2020 Hellcat. To be completely honest, there are like a million things that I love about this car, but I'm gonna narrow it down to 7, and if you guys never saw the video I made about the Scat Pack, I'm gonna put it up on the screen right now so you guys can check out that video. I tried to keep this list of things a little bit different, something I haven't mentioned before, and somewhat particular to this vehicle. So hopefully this one gives you a little bit more information, and if you combine the two, you've got about 14 different things that I love about this car. But obviously the hardest part was narrowing down the list of items, because there's truly so many things about this car that I had to keep it narrowed down, and as you'll see in today's video, I kind of combined a few into a single number. I'm sure you guys are wondering, where in the world am I, since I've never really filmed from this location? Well, me and the fiance decided to do a little bit of a staycation here in Bear Lake, and I actually made a video about us going off-roading up here and just kind of taking in the scenery probably back in August of last year, and I'll throw that on the screen right now as well so you guys can check out that video if you're interested after you're finished watching this one, of course. Okay, to kick off, the first thing in no particular order, and that has to do with the wide body. Yes, I'm sure you guys know I am biased, and obviously I love the wide body because, well, that's the one I purchased, but there are definitely some advantages to getting the wide body, which I talked about in a video about a month ago. The wide body adds not just an appearance package, although the appearance is what's the most noticeable, but you know, it adds better handling, essentially better acceleration due to the wider tires, and it's just a little bit more rare, and so it's harder to find one of these things on the road. Even though they are getting a little bit more common, the wide body is something that I absolutely love, and that was the big reason why I decided to switch to a Hellcat, because I didn't want to just switch to a narrow body and have essentially the same thing I had before, but with a bigger engine. I wanted to have something a little bit different, and I think the wide body look with the way the front splitter also goes down all the way across, it just adds a little bit of a different look and something a little bit more unique when you're driving one of these cars down the road. All right, now for the second thing, we're actually going to have to jump inside the car because it has to do with the UConnect system. Okay, so the second thing I really love about this car is the SRT mode. And I'm pretty sure it makes you turn on the car so that you can hear the glorious V8. But anyways, once you hit the SRT mode, you have got so many different drive modes and options when it comes to the Hellcat. I mean, there's an auto mode, which pretty much puts everything on street except for the steering and the paddle shifters. There's a custom mode, which I personally haven't even customized yet and left it as it was from the factory. There's the sport mode, and then there's even a track mode. And what's crazy is it's actually noticeable how big of a difference it makes. When you're driving in track mode, the car is super rough on the suspension. Like, it's bouncing around the entire time, and it actually gets annoying if you're driving in daily traffic in track mode. So what I'm trying to say is these modes really do make a difference, and they change the way the steering feels, the suspension feels, as well as other things that I don't even notice right off the bat that make it better for this car to perform on the track. On top of that, you've got these race options, which include line lock, launch control. You've got a race cooldown, which I've never even used yet because I haven't taken it to a racetrack, but it'll tell you to open up the hood, and then you'll push the race cool down button, and well, it will cool down the engine and get you ready for another run at the drag strip. On top of that, you have the track setup, which gives you a little bit more options on the different things that you can do. I mean, there's just so many menus within this one SRT button, which you can actually click down here as well. There's just so many different options. You have performance pages, which I'm sure you guys are all well aware of because pretty much every SRT powered product has one of these. And another really cool feature is if you double click the SRT button, it'll actually put you in your custom mode. So if you're trying to, beat some Mustangs or Camaros off the line and you have a certain setup, you can just double click that button at a stoplight and it's automatically going to set it exactly how you want it. That is one thing I really love about this car. It's just so customizable. There's just so many ways that you can make it your own. And it's not just software. It really is noticeable when you're driving down the road. And I'm really glad that Dodge not only put in performance pages, but an SRT button as well. Well, since we're still in the car, I'll talk about the third thing that I love about my Hellcat. And that has to do with the nice materials that they used inside of the cabin. For example, one of the things I absolutely love is this suede Alcantara door panel over here. Now, I will caveat this that this is an option. It doesn't come on every single Hellcat, but you can get this as an option on the Hellcats and possibly even the Scat Packs, as well as this suede Alcantara steering wheel, which may be the cherry on top, because I didn't think I needed an Alcantara steering wheel until I actually had one, and appreciate it so much more now that I have it. My only concern with it is it might wear a little bit more than a leather steering wheel, especially in these 10 and 2 notches, but regardless, it's still just gorgeous, and I love how it feels, especially when it's cold and I've got the heated steering wheel on. There's nothing better than an Alcantara steering wheel. I also love the leather touches that they used up here. I mean, this isn't real leather, it's soft touch, and I think it's just like rubber, but it feels like real leather, and that's what's kind of important when it comes to a car of this caliber and this price point. And the same material carries over here. You've got the soft touch material, you've got this stitching over here, which looks really nice. It's a contrast to the black. And you can actually get these door panels in the brown. If you get the peanut butter leather interior, you can get the red interior. So there's just a lot of customization that comes to the interior of these cars, which makes them a little bit different and a little bit more premium than your standard car. What I also like is they carry over the same materials to the rear seats as well. If you take a look, you'll see that there's the same leather Alcantara mix in the back seats, and it's the same Laguna leather that you see on the front seats as well. And typically the rear seats get ignored, but not in the Hellcat. You've even got rear air vents down here, and even the side padding is also leather, so that wherever you put your hands and arms on, it's going to be soft touch materials. So it's just those little things that Dodge did to make their cars a little bit more comfortable and convenient. All right, now the number 4 thing that I love about this car has to do with the power. I mean, I cannot make a 7 Things I Love video without talking about these 717 ponies under the hood. I mean, if you're not talking about that, then you're just not doing the Hellcat justice. So I will briefly mention that I love the power delivery of this vehicle, let alone the horsepower, the 717, the 656 pound-feet of torque. Those are just numbers, but when it comes to actual experiences driving this car, it truly is a very smooth and daily drivable vehicle. And then when you want to gun it and when you want to have that power on the ground, it's very easy to do so. What impressed me about this vehicle is actually the sensitivity of the gas pedal. My 2017 Scat Pack had a much more sensitive gas pedal and was actually somewhat difficult to drive to people who have never sat in one or driven one before, because as soon as you push the pedal even just a little bit, it instantly started losing traction. And that does not happen in this car. This power delivery on the pedal is much more smooth, much more gradual, and so obviously there's much travel for you to be able to gun it and have just endless power. But if you want to just go in like stop and go traffic, this pedal is absolutely wonderful for that, and you don't feel like you're going to instantly unleash 717 horsepower every time you touch it just a little bit. The other thing I love that Dodge tuned in such an amazing way that no other manufacturer, in my opinion, has gotten down the exact way as Dodge has, that is the supercharger whine. The whine of this car is just absolutely amazing. No other car I think matches it. Obviously other superchargers have that type of whine, but something about the sound of this car and the way it's channeled into the cabin of the vehicle is unlike any other manufacturer. One downside of me modifying my exhaust and adding the Dynamax race bullets is that unfortunately I cannot hear the supercharger whine as loud as I did before I did the exhaust system. So that is one downside of the Dynamax race bullets. Even though generally it is louder and the exhaust sounds better, I just can't hear that supercharger as well, and that's just a little bit of a bummer. But the combination of the supercharger whine, the exhaust sound, and the power delivery of this vehicle is one of the things that I absolutely love about this car. Now for the number 5 thing that I love about this car, that has to do with the UConnect app. Now, if your car comes with the Sirius XM satellite radio, which mostly everybody gets as soon as they purchase this car, because I think the dealership always includes at least a 1-year free trial. What's nice about the Sirius XM is it's not just satellite radio, it actually includes a lot of wireless features that you get with your phone. Now, using the UConnect app on my phone, I'm actually able to lock and unlock this car. I'm able to turn the horn on and the lights in case I think somebody's about to steal it, which is a very common topic with these cars nowadays. And I can also remote start the car without using my key. What's nice about that feature is the key, obviously you have to be within range of the vehicle to be able to do that, versus if I use the app, I can actually be sitting in a restaurant that's a mile away and remote start this car. One thing I want to make note about the app is it does have about a 1-minute delay between when I push the button on the app and when the car actually responds. But regardless, the fact that you can do that with your phone is pretty impressive. The other thing you can do is actually check the vehicle location and even set a boundary around it. So if you guys take it to a valet, you turn on the location, it will actually alert you via email and via the app whether the car has exceeded the boundary that you have set it. And I believe you can also set a speed limit on the car, so if somebody exceeds that speed limit, it'll also notify you via the app and the email. And there's a lot of other features on this app that I probably haven't even used. It gives you info about the car, like what your tire pressure is, what your oil life is, how many miles you have. So the app is actually really useful. What's interesting is, even though I had Sirius XM on my 2017 Scat Pack, I never ended up using this feature. I'm not even sure if that car had that feature, if this was something that they introduced in the later model years. But regardless, for those of you that don't know, you can use the UConnect app and do a lot of cool things with the car just using your phone. Okay, now for the number 6 thing that I absolutely love about this car, I'm gonna have to repeat myself of what I said in a previous video, and that has to do with the looks. I cannot get past the looks of this vehicle. I mean, that is one of the reasons why anybody purchases a Challenger, is because this is, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, the most true to heart retro looking muscle car out of all of the 3 competitors. This thing has obvious references to the old 70s or late 60s Challengers, and you know, just looking at this car, it already looks like it's moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. And to expand upon what I loved about the Scat Pack, what's interesting and cool looking about the Hellcat is the front end is different than the Scat Pack, except for the wide body Scat Pack, which they changed, I think in 2018 when they introduced the wide body. Before then, the Hellcat's front end was unique to the Hellcat. No other car had the same front end. The Scat Pack had a little bit different of a front splitter, and even this front bumper section was different. You know, on the Hellcat, you have this kind of line that goes in and then tapers back out, whereas on the Scat Pack, it was just a straight line all across from headlight to headlight. This has a little bit of a flatter front end as compared to the Scat Pack, which actually rounded in a little bit more into the front splitter. So the front end of this car is unique to the Hellcat, except, like I said, as of the wide body Scat Packs, they have the upgraded Hellcat front end too, which makes these a little bit less special. But regardless, the looks of this car are just super unique and super cool looking. And I actually love the attention that it gets. Even though I personally don't like getting attention on myself, I love when people come up to this car and just look at it like it's some sort of supercar, which it kind of is in a way. I mean, given the horsepower figures, it is in Lamborghini territory, but it is clearly not a Lamborghini. But it gets the same amount of attention at car shows as those exotic supercars. People go up to it all the time and just, they love it. I mean, it's, even though it's been out for about 6 years now, the Hellcat is still one of a kind, and there's just not as much attention on the other competitors as there is on this car. There's just some sort of notoriety when it comes to the Hellcat and its name and the power it produces. It truly is fascinating, and that's one of the things I love about it. To expand a little further, I love the color of this car and the color options that Dodge provides for its vehicles. This one is Hellraisin, and it's a very unique color because most people have never seen one in person. Every time somebody comes up to me and asks me if this is the purple Hellcat, I explained to them that yes, this is the Hellraisin, but there's also a Plum Crazy. And most people know the Plum Crazy color, but they had no idea that Hellraisin was a color that Dodge has released. And this is a really unique color because under the sunlight, and the camera's probably not going to catch it, but under the sunlight, this color looks completely different than when it's in the shade. As you can see up here, this is in the sunlight, this is kind of in the shaded area. You can see the difference. I mean, it's a totally different color, and it's really unique. And that's why I love the Hellraisin color, because nobody has really seen it. The Plum Crazy has been out for so many years, and that is probably one of my all-time favorite colors, but something about the Hellraisin is just different and people just love it. The other thing about having the wide body when it comes to the looks of the car is I've had a lot of people actually mistake this car for a Demon or a Red Eye. This is not the Red Eye, and the Red Eye really has no big difference in terms of appearance aside from just a little red dot on the Hellcat emblem. But the Demon has a totally different hood. You know, it's got the big inlet over here, and it looks completely different from the hood standpoint. But I've already had 2 people since I've purchased this car mistake it for a Demon. You know, they even asked me, how did you get this Demon? And obviously I tell them the truth, but I could play along and say, well, I am a multimillionaire that made money off of Bitcoin. But in all seriousness, people just don't know the difference between the Hellcat Red Eye, and the Demon, especially when you have the wide body look, because most people just assume that the wide body was something that came on all of the Demons and none of the other vehicles. Okay, now for the number 7 thing that I love about this car, has to do with the fact of why I brought it here on my staycation, and that is because it is extremely daily drivable. This is no longer my daily driver. I have a 2018 Toyota RAV4 and soon to be 2021 Ford Bronco, fingers crossed. But before that, my Challenger was my daily driver, and then I have this Hellcat now, and not that I daily drive it, but I know that it is very easy to do so. I just drove it about 2.5 hours to my destination here, and aside from getting a bunch of bugs on the front, it was so smooth, so easy to drive, so comfortable that I kind of forgot that I was driving in a 717 horsepower muscle car. It's got a lot of amenities: heated seats, ventilated seats, you've got a heated steering wheel, you've got cruise control, you can even get the adaptive cruise control, which will monitor the same speed as the car in front. The trunk in the back is immensely large, just like an ungodly amount of space in the trunk of this car. I was actually able to fit pretty much the same amount that I would always fit in my Toyota RAV4 when we do these little trips, just in the back of this car. You know, it's not as tall as an SUV would be, but in terms of like the floor space and the square footage that comes just on the base area of this car, it's probably just as large, if not bigger, than my Toyota RAV4. I mean, it's huge. I fit probably like 6 duffel bags back here. I put my computer, I put like this camera bag, I put so much crap in the back of this car, and it all fit just fine. I didn't even have to touch the rear seats inside the car. And talking about rear seats, the rear legroom is actually really impressive for this vehicle. I sit pretty far back, but I've made videos about this in the past where the rear seats actually have a decent amount of space back here where you could easily fit an adult for a couple hours driving around without a problem. Now, some of you guys may hate me for parking it on this pretty rough terrain, but I'm about to show you guys some footage of something I had to do earlier last night when we actually got to our destination. Unfortunately, they were doing the asphalt in the area, and so the only road available to get to our destination was this pretty rough dirt road. And unfortunately, I didn't know how bad it was going to be until we were already stuck on the terrain and there was not really a way for me to turn back. So I'm about to show you guys some footage that my fiance took of me as we were driving on this pretty extreme off-road trail, extreme for a Hellcat or any sedan for that matter. And this car handled it magnificently. And so if there's any proof that you can daily drive and potentially off-road a Hellcat, it's very possible and very doable. Now, full disclosure, I hate putting my car into these situations, but yesterday I was forced to do it, and this car came through. So this is a perfect road trip car, a perfect daily driver, and also a perfect off-roader. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys one more bonus. So the 8th thing that I love about my 2020 Hellcat, and the reason I'm making this a bonus is it's because it's not directly related to this car, but the entire Mopar community. I've also talked about this in previous videos, but the Mopar, the Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, that community is really so accepting and so fun to be around that it really makes ownership and the experience of owning this car go to the very next level. I never really had that type of community in my previous car or the car before that. And I was honestly startled when I came upon an individual in Salt City Mopars, which is a big Mopar group that I'm here in Utah. You know, he came up to me and gave me a card and invited me to a bunch of events and on their Facebook page. And it was really fun being, you know, in this car community. It just kind of makes it a whole different level of owning this vehicle. It's not just about the car you drive, it's about the experiences, the cruises, all the trips that you go on. That's the stuff that really makes owning this car go to the next level. And that's what I absolutely love about owning a Mopar, and that's why it will be hard to ever leave a Mopar community, because it's just unlike any other that I've experienced. Well, there you have it, boys and girls. Those were the 8 reasons why I absolutely love owning this 2020 Dodge Challenger Hellcat. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and let me know what you love about your Mopar product, whatever it is, down in the comments below. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do so you can stay on top of all of the weekly videos, and make sure you tap that notification bell so that you know as soon as those new videos are posted. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram and TikTok already, make sure you do so at Schwazy_. And like always, stay Schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.